Hello there, everybody. This is Jen Kiaba for our weekly Q&A here in the Beneath the Surface group. And today I am with Alissa Rosenberg. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Good job.
So glad. Thank you for letting me know ahead of time. I always try to check, but I'm so glad. So Alissa is a fine art photographer based in New York, and she has an extensive background in selling her work, which is something that a lot of us are very interested in. And some of the things that she and I talked about, I figured everybody else would want to know as well. So she has very gracefully agreed to join us today. And so we have some questions that we're going to be going through, and obviously feel free to ask questions throughout the broadcast. Just a reminder ahead of time, the broadcast software that I'm using right now, I cannot see your name in it. So I'm going to be checking my phone to try to make sure I can credit the right person with the question. And, you know, we'll make do with what we have here. So I have, as always, about 10 questions for her. We'll probably go about an hour based on what we've been going with everybody else. So I want to, again, thank you for joining us today. And I want to kick it off with the question about just how you became the photographer that you are. What was your journey to get here?
Well, my journey was, I guess, maybe non-traditional because I did not grow up as a photographer or an artist. I did not see myself that way. I did not think of myself that way. And if you would have asked me 7 years ago if I would be here today, it wouldn't even have been something that I would have, it wouldn't have been on my radar. It wasn't even like a goal that I wanted to have. It wasn't like, I was like, oh, I'd love to, you know, show my work in galleries. I hadn't really picked up a real camera. So about in 2012, I went on a family vacation with my family to Italy, to Europe. It's our first time going to Europe, and I bought a point and shoot Nikon that had like an extended lens, and we took that to Europe. And you know, I mean, I guess Europe is a great place to learn to fall in love with you know, landscapes and photography. And I, you know, was supposed to be sharing that camera with everybody, but I kept grabbing it back and taking the pictures. And and then I would, you know, I think I brought my laptop. I must have brought my laptop on that trip because I would take the pictures and then I would go and load them up, and I'm thinking it must have been my laptop. And I would look at the pictures and realize like, oh, they could be cropped a little differently. Like, oh, I could have, you know, and I started playing with cropping, and then I would play a little bit with the editing, just the basic features like on a Mac. And then I would throw them through Instagram and try the Instagram filters. And I don't know, I just fell in love. I really just said, oh, I'm enjoying this. And I came home, I bought that camera in Costco. It broke like right after during the trip within that 3-month period. And so I went to return the camera because it was broken. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy a real DSLR. And I brought it home. And this is like, you know, when people say they have like a defining moment in their life, this is, I can truly remember sitting on the edge of my bed, bringing that box home. I bought like one camera, an entry-level DSLR, 2 lenses. It had, you know, it comes in the Costco package, right? 2 lenses, an SD card. And I opened it up the box and I said to myself, I am not going to be just another mom with a camera on like, you know, auto. So I'm going to learn how to use this. And I'm good because I made the investment and I'm done now, which of course anybody in this group now knows that it was not nearly.
It never ends there.
I thought I had it all now. I thought I had, you know, my 2 lenses and I'm good to go. But, you know, it turns out that this is the most expensive hobby. And I don't know, I just went from there. It went from like, it was like an unending learning process for me. I learned how to use my camera. I would go out and shoot. I would say, well, how come I would take these, you know, sunset pictures and the sky is all white and the ground looks great, or the ground looks too dark and the sky looks beautiful. Like, what am I doing wrong? And then Google, and I sort of Googled my way through 6 years of learning, and everything, you know, every time I sort of achieve a goal, I'd say, oh, I want to learn to do this, or I like this. And, you know, and I sort of self-taught, also watched a lot of videos, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of, I took some classes here by me, like at a local photography store, and a college course here and there, like a, you know, a continuing education kind of class. And then just as I went through it, I said, oh, I want to do portraits, and well, how do I make my pictures look like this? And I want to learn lighting, and how do I do that? And then somewhere along the line, I said, oh, I want to learn how to use Photoshop. And that's the one piece in my life that I've always been techie. I always was drawn to a computer. Not that I can code or anything like that, but I liked playing with the programs and making things, like taking my pictures and collaging them and stuff like that. So, and I went from, okay, I want to learn how to manipulate images, and then I wanted to learn how to like create images on my own, rather than just capturing. And I love both ends of photography. I like the digital art and I like the straight photography. So, so I went from one to the next, but it was like a progression of wanting to learn more. I don't think I'll ever stop wanting to learn. I hope not.
No. Then you're done.
Then you're done, right? And I feel like that's, I think, why I like this so much, because can you really be done? I mean, there's so much more to learn. I want to like take pictures of, I've taken pictures of the Milky Way. I wanted to learn that. And this year I want to do star trails, like it's just, it's just exciting. Like all of it's exciting. So
yeah, definitely. And at what point did you feel comfortable calling yourself an artist?
Oh, that took a while. That really did. That was a few years, I have to say. Because in the beginning I would post my pictures on Facebook and people would say, oh, you take such pretty pictures. Oh, that's really nice. And
you must have a nice camera.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's a great camera that you have there. Or, and so they would say to me, oh, well, you're an artist. And I'm like, I'm an artist. I didn't grow up like that. I didn't go to art school. I didn't see myself. It took a while. It really honestly did before I could think of myself in that way.
Yeah, I just saw a frowny face go up along the screen for the you must have a nice camera. I want to say hi to those of you that have said hi. Hi, Michael. Hi, Heather. Hi, Abigail. Hi to everybody else watching. Thank you for joining us. So it sounds like you are a multifaceted photographer, which brings me to my next question of what subject matter do you find the most meaningful for you as an artist?
I honestly, so many different ones. That's what I think happens, is that why I'm not getting bored, because I actually really love portraiture. I love manipulated portraiture and straight portraiture. I like macro, certain kinds of macro photography. I like landscape photography. I don't really have like a one full on, if I have something that I want to like try to achieve, whatever that might be, that's what I'm going for at the moment, and I just try to keep it exciting for myself. But honestly, I really do like so many facets of it. And I like the editing part of it too. For hours and edit, and hours. I really like lose my day sometimes.
I can totally relate. I sometimes lose sleep editing.
Yeah.
By the way, Jay says hi, and Missy says she's heard about that camera. She's got to buy it because it must take great pictures. So for you, especially as somebody, and I think a lot of us can relate to this, this struggle of calling ourselves artists. So how did you really begin approaching that idea of A, saying I am an artist, and then B, I'm an artist who can sell my work?
I think it was definitely a progression where people would say to me, oh, I really like this picture. Do you sell your art? A lot of that. Like, do you sell your pictures? Do you sell your pictures? And I would say, no, I'll just give you my pictures. It's all, I would never sell my pictures. I'm just doing this for fun. And, I couldn't see myself. I couldn't value it, because I didn't feel like I was real. I felt like an imposter. Like, no, I'm not an artist. Like, I couldn't, do this. Why would I sell this to you? And then I entered a gallery show near my house. And I was trying to think about, how did I find that gallery show? I must have Googled it or something. But I entered a show. I entered a couple of shows, I think. And I got into one of the first ones I entered. And I was just like amazed that this guy chose my photo to put in gallery. I thought, like, wow, that's amazing. That is not even something that when I started out in photography, I was like, just wanted to learn my camera. I just want to take nice pictures. The thought of like actually being in a gallery then wasn't even on my radar. That wasn't even something that I thought I could do. So that was very exciting. And then I guess somewhere along the lines, I started to think like, oh, maybe I should start selling them, and people like them, and we'll see if it's more than just my friends and family. So And that's kind of how it started.
Okay. And it's funny that you say that, you entered a gallery, but at the same time, like you're like, no, I don't sell my work. Why would I sell my work? I'm just doing it for fun. Like just even the mental step of being able to go from this is a hobby for me, I wouldn't sell to like, well, but maybe I could get into a gallery. I think that that's something that takes a lot of us a long time, especially when we're suffering from that imposter syndrome, or when we feel like, why would anybody want to buy my work? I still go through that. I do. Like my work is weird. Why would anybody want that on their wall? So I'm very impressed by the fact that you are able to make those leaps.
Okay.
I think that it's something that a lot of us would love to be able to process and do for ourselves. So then, once you were in a gallery, and then also when you decided to start selling your work, can you talk about the process that you went through in terms of deciding how to print, what to print on, framing, and then pricing too?
Oh boy.
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
that is like a never ending process. I really do. I don't feel like I'm well, I guess in the beginning, I started to research like different, where do you print from? Where is the more
Mhm.
professional? Like how are my prints going to look the best? Do I have to color? I found out you have to color, like you have to, if you work with a printer, you should have your monitor
Calibrated, yeah.
calibrated, which I've
Hmm.
never actually done, to be honest with you. I have it. I have a little calibration system sitting there and I've never done it.
I've done it and it turned my stuff orange.
It did, yeah. That's what I heard. So I was like, you
Yeah.
know what? I'll just test run from the printer that I use, and if it
Hmm.
doesn't look good, I'll go back and try to adjust it a little bit. But wait, so I'm trying to, so I decided. So I've been investigating different companies that I can use to print from. So sometimes when I want to have things hung, like if I have a gallery show, I will have them printed through like an online printer that I use. I
Hmm.
have to be honest with you, I do use Costco and I've used them many times.
Hmm.
And, if I needed like a quick print or I want to just test and see how something looks, I
Hmm.
print it through them. It's not really who I use for gallery exhibits for main prints, but they
Hmm.
do a really good job with canvas.
Are they archival prints though when
I
they
don't
do
think
that?
so. I don't think
Okay.
so. So that's kind of where I'm at, because right now I haven't been printing archival prints
Oh.
until now, but I'm about to start, because
Hmm.
where I've really been selling most of my work is through my online gallery, and
Okay.
that's done through Fine Art America.
Uh-huh.
So most of my prints have been sold that way,
Hmm.
or if I sell them directly, I don't sell them the Costco canvases sometimes.
Yeah.
But I have like couple of different vendors that I use to sell canvas
Hmm.
and to do prints from. So I
Yeah.
actually have to check and see. I use Nation Photo
Hmm.
and Bayes Photo, so
Yep.
I'm not 100% sure if they're archival. But
Yeah.
what I'm looking to get into now is I have a printer, and I'm looking to use and I bought some, and I can never pronounce this, Hamamule.
Hanamule, yeah.
Thank you. I never knew how to pronounce it. So I have some of that paper now. Some of the I like the texturized paper, like the
Yes.
watercolor paper.
Yep.
So my next venture is to start doing like numbered and signed
Mhm.
prints that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I have in the past printed through MPix, and they do a test print.
Mhm.
So probably very similar to going to Costco and getting a print. And I do find that just seeing your work off of a screen is so helpful,
Yeah.
because for me, it's like looking at a rough draft of something, and you have a very different critical eye. And I
Yes.
think just the fact that it's reflected light versus projected light through a screen changes your experience as well. Tina
Definitely.
says White House custom color is wonderful for prints too. Great customer service. I definitely agree, Tina. One thing is that I don't know that their prints are archival. I feel like I had this conversation with them recently. So the paper that Alissa is talking about printing on Hanamule is very high end, and then there's also Epson, things like that. Heather says, "Can we see some of what what you shoot, or where we should look?" I can drop your link into an on-screen update if you want to give me
Oh,
that
sure.
URL.
Okay. It's www.longislandfineartphotography.com.
Great SEO on that URL. LongislandFineArtPhotography.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to show that. So anybody that wants to take a look, hopefully I didn't misspell it, but that's where you can find her work. So then in terms of framing and pricing your work, let's dive into that a little bit, because I think that there's a lot of questions around that, and it is a loaded topic, and obviously it's always a moving goalpost, because as you're improving and learning, everything changes. But where you are now, how did you get to that?
Well, I guess, because I sell a majority of my work online, I started out by kind of researching other people's work to see where their price was, and if you look on that Fine Art America, you'll see that that price point it varies, people really selling very, very low to selling very high. So I kind of took a look at, like, who am I similar to? Where is my work at? Is my work, looking like this person or that person? There's a couple of people that I've become, sort of like social media friends with, other fine art photographers. And so I look at if they have a Fine Art America site, I look at their work, and I kind of guided my price starting out that way. So over the past couple of years, I've increased my price, because I started out a little bit lower, wanted to see where I would be at. And then I decided, okay, you know what, I'd like the prices to be a little bit higher. So that's how I kind of guided it. And then there's also that whole mentality of art, and anything really. If you underprice yourself, if you undervalue yourself, people see it that way. So, you have to sort of decide where you're at and how you value yourself. And it's hard. It is hard. A hard process. So.
It is. Yeah. And especially I think when you're selling on a marketplace, whether it's Etsy or Fine Art America, when I first started doing fine art, I was selling on Etsy, and I belonged to a group of photographers that were also selling there. And there was definitely a culture around pricing. You would sell like an 8x10 for less than $30, which, if you want to get into higher end limited editions, then you're not going to be able to have that kind of pricing.
Exactly.
And so you really have to create a shift in your culture. And you really also have to think about, I think, building up your own audience versus relying on the inherent audience that exists within that marketplace, who is so used to those prices.
Exactly.
And that's a scary step to take, for sure.
It definitely is. Yeah. So, I still kind of struggle with the pricing, and I still look and go, ooh, is it too low? Is it too high? Am I, where should I go with this? Should I take certain collections and make them different prices? Because are they more valuable, because they've hung in galleries, or because they're more of my own creations, so they make, like, I do a series called Painted Ladies. That's my own thing. So, to me, that is a different kind of art that I started to do. And, where it's digital, manipulation, but it's based highly in photography, and it's my own. So as much as, like, last week I went out to a sunflower field, and
I love those.
And I was so happy with the way they came out, so thrilled. And, you try to make a landscape your own too, like your own sort of, you want to have, it's not just the wide view of the landscapes, but also try to give it your own feel, or have like certain flowers as being like the focus, or I don't know, you want to like create emotions through landscape. But at the same time, and everybody that goes to that sunflower field is really in the same location, but everybody's still going to walk away with different point of view, a different set of work. But I feel like the Painted Ladies are mine. They're my concept from beginning to end. So maybe I should be valuing those higher, and that's what I started doing. Because I've been selling those, and those are the ones I'm going to start selling as limited editions, signed and on the finer paper, and that way I'll be, and I'll value those higher.
Yeah, so. Makes sense. Norma wants to know if you sell different sizes of one image. Also, it sounds like we've got an echo. Can you hear that?
Me?
Maybe. If you have earbuds, that might help with that. I'm not sure.
Uh-oh.
It's okay. We could, if the echo continues, and I just heard it the one time. But yeah, Norma wants to know if you have different sizes of one image that you sell. So you do?
Yes.
Okay. How did you choose the sizing then for those?
Well, on the Fine Art America, on that site, I can put in a variety of different sizes and prices.
Okay.
For when I'm going to start doing the limited editions, I'm going to start out with one size, and I think I'm going to try and choose a size that isn't too large, so that if somebody, they can find it, because it's decor at the same time as it's art. People have to have a place for it in their home. So starting out with, maybe like a medium-sized print, so people might say, oh, I really love this. Oh, I have a small wall that I can put this on, and then see like where people are at and if they want something large. Although I just sold a very, very large print the other day to somebody, and it was framed, and it was about a 48 by 36. Wow. And it took her a little while. She said, I want this, I'm going to buy it from you. And it was already framed and already done. But I'll contact you next week once I figure out where I'm putting it. But I know I have a spot for my house. And then I thought, uh-oh, I hope she still wants to buy it. But she did. She came back. She just had to find a nice spot for it. So, that's a really big spot to be able to in your home. So I feel like I'm going to start for the limited editions, smaller. But for the open editions, like on Fine Art America, I have a variety so that people can choose.
Okay. So the question. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, talking about sizing, in the beginning, I used to just crop without any thought to size. So I would crop, and a lot of my earlier work is like this weird sizing, like it's just like weird. So they have to have it custom framed. Yeah. But as I've grown, I realized, oh, I should really think about cropping in very traditional sizes for some of my work, because that way people can then buy the print, and then if they want to go to Michael's and buy a frame, they can put it in and it's going to fit in an 8 by 10 or 16 by 20 or something like that. So I do have that in my mind now when I crop.
That is one of even the difficult things about using the aspect ratio that comes out of a lot of cameras, because I think it's like an 8 by 12, which is not necessarily a common frame size. So that's a really good point that you make. And also we have to think about whether we're shooting for book covers or for prints, that anytime we crop, we're losing pixels. And so it means that you lose the ability to some degree to blow up the image more and more because you're losing data. So I have a question about your site, because I finally went to it. Is this actually connected to Fine Art America? I've not dove into Fine Art America. So like if I click on Long Island Sunflowers, is this actually like, am I buying through the Fine Art America interface?
Yeah. If you look at the URL, it doesn't come up as Pixels now. Like
yes, pixels.com.
Yeah, Fine Art America and Pixels.com, I think, are the same company.
Okay.
And so I bought my own, I bought the Long Island Fine Art Photography URL, right? Is that what it is?
Yep.
And then I connected it to it, but in reality, it's just that I'm pushing, people.
Yeah, you're redirecting it.
Yeah. And then I also have another website that I use for portrait photography and really for everything. I have like a main hub website, AlissaBethPhoto.com. And I have a link to go there for fine art, and then I have links for other things on my main site.
Okay. And so people are finding you through your own means, or they're finding you through Fine Art America's search engine? Do you know?
Both.
Maybe this is both. Okay.
Yeah, definitely both.
And so Fine Art America, do they give you analytics for you to see like where the traffic is coming from?
Yes. If you, when you sign up, and it's free to sign up, what I like about this, and there's things about this place that I don't like, but what I do like about it is that it's free for like the first, I think, 10 images. And then after that, it's very inexpensive. It's $30 a year. Okay. And they give you like a whole back, you click behind the scenes, and they have analytics. I think you can even hook up Google Analytics, but I'm not that good at that stuff. So I think I did it, but I still don't know what I'm looking at. But they have a page that says visitors, and you can look at each picture, and it tells you how many people have looked at it, how many people on that day, where they're coming from, like what's their location, how many people in total have looked at your page. I think I've gotten like 35,000 hits on my page in total. Wow. And then there's certain images you can see which ones get looked at a lot more. I have one image that has 5,000 hits on it, and I have one that has 12. So it's, it really depends upon what people like. So and it's sort of on that same social media platform. So the more you sell, the higher in the rankings you become when people are looking for, sunflowers. So if they put into Fine Art America sunflowers or Long Island sunflowers, I may come up on the first page, probably not. But, I hope to come up on some of them, in the top few pages, but in the beginning, you don't really come up at all. So,
Right.
so you have to do the whole keywording thing. And,
Yep. The whole SEO thing.
yeah. So
Norma also asked if you know if there's a European equivalent of Fine Art America.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm actually like looking through my email because I feel like there is, and it's not coming to me immediately. So Norma, I'm going to try to get back to you after the broadcast about that because I think that the answer is there is one. So here's a big question. How did you begin to establish your presence as an artist? And I mean this both from the online world and then also just offline networking as well.
I think it was a combination of Facebook. Facebook is huge. I think that's a very, very big piece of it for me. And then doing the gallery exhibits, entering those contests and meeting people. So I feel like anytime I get accepted into a show, whether I place or I don't place, to me, it's always a win. Like just getting in is a huge honor because that means that the judge or judges have looked at, 300 to 3,000 pieces, depending upon how big or small the show is, and said, I have 30 pieces that I'm going to hang on a gallery wall and yours is one of them. So to me, that is just like, that to me is winning, in a way. And so when I go, if they're local, and I usually really try to stay in more local, like Long Island, tri-state area kind of shows because I can go to that. I've done a few outside of Long Island or New York. Actually, I mean, my goals are always like Manhattan or Brooklyn. So, because, but I try to go to them and then I meet people, you go to the openings and you network that way and you meet other artists, you meet other gallery, you meet the gallery owners, you meet sometimes they're not just galleries, but they're also like the art societies, the town councils or whatnot. So you meet people, and I think that a lot of that is, you learn. I learn so much from meeting other people, looking at other people's work, looking at what the judges like and don't like. I've learned a lot from being at the shows. These shows, I learned a tremendous amount from, being in them.
I think that that's such a good point that you make because I've been in gallery shows where they're on the other side of the country, and like even a solo show of mine was in Oregon and it just ended up turning out that there was a hurricane over there and I couldn't make it out there. But the point of being able to be present at these shows, it's huge. And I think, again, a lot of artists are very introverted and the word networking just makes our skin crawl. But at the same time, the fact that you are getting to know people, getting to know what they like, what they don't like, and being able to connect face to face with people is huge.
Yeah, definitely.
So this kind of goes into the next question. What has your experience been in terms of not just selling fine art, but just in general, like what has been your experience with juried shows and galleries? It seems like that's, kind of like when we talked to Samantha, that's such a huge topic for a lot of us.
Yeah.
Like overall, just, it sounds like it's been very much worth it for your career.
It definitely has been. It's not just like, it's been worth it because it teaches a lot. These juror shows are really contests, right? I mean, that's what they come out. That's what they are. You pay $25, $35 to submit 3 images, 5 images, and then somebody, maybe one person or a group of people, a panel, are the jurors. And so, in the beginning, I started out and I just applied to anything that I looked like I could, that my work would fit with. Because a lot of times they have themes and not always like an open theme. So if I have work that would fall into that category, I would submit it. And I didn't really look at like who the judges were or the location of the galleries because I didn't really know that much then. And I was just excited to be a part. So if I got into something, awesome. If I didn't get into something, well, that kind of stinks. But but in the beginning, I started out. This was maybe like 4 years ago.
Okay.
So I started maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I think I started out entering galleries, shows a year or a year and a half after I started photography in general. So it took me a while because I was like, I'm not gonna do this. So in the beginning, I entered a lot of shows and I got in a lot, and I was blown away. I'm still blown away sometimes. I mean, really, like I don't think I'll ever not be excited about getting into a show, you know?
Yeah.
And so some of them were smaller, some of them were bigger, but it was exciting no matter what. No matter if I won, it was exciting because, okay, great. They like my work. I fit into the mold. But then I went through a little phase about 2 years ago where I entered like, I don't know, 12 or 13 shows, and I got denied like all of them in a row.
Wow.
So I went on this like streak of having like show after show after show after show, and it was exciting. Different galleries around the New York area. So I even had a couple outside, and then boom. And this is where the learning comes in, because you know, sometimes you love your work and you think like, wow, everyone should love this. And sometimes you don't love your work. You know what I mean? You're like, I don't know. I don't see it, but okay, maybe I'll try it. Not that everyone should love it, but you know, there's just pieces that you hold like dear to yourself, and other people are like, not so much, you know? and then you enter other pieces, and it gets in, and it's like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I learned that some of the things that I have shown in galleries that have been accepted and even won prizes for get rejected from other shows. And that was a huge, huge learning curve, because it helped me to get everything in perspective of what this whole situation is. That this is going out and doing shows is kind of putting your own like ego on the line and putting your whole self out there. You know, it's you make yourself vulnerable, and right, because it's your work, and if you get rejected, it's hard. No matter what, any kind of rejection is hard, and when you get accepted, it's amazing. So when you go through both, you realize like sometimes the rejection, maybe the work isn't worthy, or sometimes the rejection is that it's not something that the juror wants. It's not something that they see in their show, because they have a vision themselves of how they want the show to look. And they have their own personal preferences, and they have their own, if they're an artist, they have their own style also. And sometimes they sort of gear into, you know, pulling things from their own style. So, you know, it's that in itself, just going through this process of being accepted and being rejected has been a huge, huge, huge learning curve for me. And I think that it keeps balance for myself. It helps me to like push myself forward. It helps me to say like, okay, I was rejected from this. Even though that last show, they took the exact same piece, this show, they rejected all of them. So, you know, and keep it in perspective, keep balance. You don't totally suck every time you get rejected, but you know what? Push yourself forward and try new things and learn from it. And, you know, so that's I hope it made sense.
No, it totally makes sense. And I think it's so important for us to keep in mind. So when you're applying to these galleries, how are you finding and researching the ones that are going to be the right fit for you and for your work?
Well, I start out, a lot of times I look on, I think it's called Cafe Entry, right? I look on there, and I usually pull up like, put in New York, so that way I can see what the different shows are that are, people have a call for artists. And sometimes I just Google call for artists New York, and I come up with other sites. I also like subscribe to certain galleries now, so I get their emails when they have a show. And then over time, like I've learned about the local galleries in my area. I became part of the art council, 2 of them in my area. So, you know, I've applied to those. And then there's certain galleries like in Brooklyn and New York that I started to see a lot of call for entries. So sometimes I apply to them. And I've also learned about, I think we talked about this once in the group, about vanity galleries. That was an interesting thing, because I got solicited one time from a gallery. I don't know if I should name it. Or should I not?
Yeah, Agora Gallery.
Yeah, Agora Gallery. And I was like, they solicited, and, you know, oh, we're really interested in your work and blah, blah. I was like, wow, they found me. That's so cool. And then, you know, you look into it and they want $3,500 for you to come, or more, I think even, for you to have a show with them. And I was like, is this even real? Because everything I've always heard of is if somebody wants you, you know, wants to do give you a gallery exhibit, they're not going to ask you for $3,500. So I luckily, you know, really did a little bit of research and, you know, Googled them, and didn't just as face value and learned what a vanity gallery is.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to post a list of vanity galleries really quickly.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm going to post that in here. And Cynthia wants to know, when did you finally see your work as fine art? What differentiates a beautiful photograph from fine art?
It's a very subjective answer, right? Like, I think when I started putting my own spin into my work, when I started finding my own voice in my work, I started to consider it fine art. I think some of my photography, landscapes, I consider them to be fine art. But like I said, some of the other stuff that I do, I think, when I started combining and creating from my own mind, my artwork, then I started to think of it as fine art, I guess. But I do think of some of the landscapes as fine art too.
Yeah.
But some of the portraits that I've done, not just the painted ladies, but I have other ones. Actually, there's a photograph, a photo digital art piece, I guess I call it like photo art, of a girl, it's on my website, a girl standing, holding, like I added in a dove. And so she's standing with a dress on, it's at the beach, and she's standing. And that, to me, when I created that, and it's a little Brooke Shaden-esque because she's definitely like somebody that I'm very drawn to her work. So when I created that for the first time, that was my very first stylized photo shoot where I took my model and I made sure that I had the gowns and I had the location and the lighting. And, I didn't know 100% what I wanted to create out of it. I didn't have like necessarily a total theme, but I knew the feel that I wanted to create.
Yeah.
And so I took a lot, I had her out there. And then when I went back and looked at my images, I said, I started playing with color toning and all the things that I like self-taught myself in Photoshop. I started to apply. Yeah. And I created that one. And I remember being done with it and stepping back for a moment and saying, this is the kind of artist I want to be.
Yeah.
This is where I'm going, and
that aha moment.
It was definitely like, okay, because that was a lot of years of work. It was a lot of years of like learning photography, learning portraiture, starting to learn color theory. That was big because I didn't have an art background. So when you start compositing, nature's nature. Like nature gives you the beautiful colors and tones, and I can change those, but it's different than when you have to start doing it yourself. So, I didn't really understand color, and I realized I need to learn about art. I need to take some classes and read and understand art better and start looking at artists and looking at who I'm drawn to and what kind of artists I like, not just photographers, but painters and how do they use color and form. And so that was a big, learning curve for me. I taught, I'm still learning that. And being able to kind of like pull that all together, and I stepped back and looked at that picture and went, this is something that I want, this is where I want to head.
Yeah. Yeah. Cynthia says that she knows that photo of yours. Darlene, I'll drop the links into the chat afterwards. I've been trying to get them to pop up on the screen, but for people that are not catching them, I'll add them in after the chat, kind of like I've got something for Norma as well. And then Missy says, I don't know if you already covered this, but did you start doing just regular photo shoots as a photography business before you started entering galleries? So I'm guessing Missy means like, do you have a commercial side of your business? You do.
Yeah, I do. Okay. I think they happened at the same time.
Okay.
Because I really, like I said, I really love both. I love the portraiture, and so when I started getting into portraiture, landscape started first because that was how I, learned. And then when I decided I liked doing portraits and I wanted to learn that, and then, post it on Facebook, and then people say, oh, how much do you charge? And I went, charge? I don't charge. I'm like, I'll take your kid and take pictures of them, and so, and then over time I went, well, now I can charge because now I understand what I'm doing. So it became, a side business for me to do portraiture. And, but at this very same time, I was always out there doing landscapes and then entering those into gallery exhibits. So kind of,
And actually, I want to kind of circle around So Cynthia's question about like, when did you consider work to be fine art? And Missy's question about, did you have a commercial side of your business?
Mhm.
To me, I always look at fine art as the work that you do for yourself
Mhm.
versus work that is created for a client.
That's
So
a very
it,
good way of putting it.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it could be that, I mean, some of us might have fine art that we think is better than
Right.
others, more elevated. Like your image of the girl with the dove, where you're like, this is something that I specifically worked very, very hard on. It is different than my landscape photography, and therefore it has a very special meaning to me, or the
Yeah.
painted ladies have a very special meaning to me. But it doesn't mean that the landscapes are not
Right.
fine art
No.
photography either. So I think that a lot of us do get stuck in like, at what point can we call it fine art? At what
Right.
point can we call ourselves fine art photographers? And I think that that simple definition can help a lot of us kind of overcome maybe a little bit of that imposter syndrome that we might have.
That's a
Hopefully.
great way of putting it. I never thought about it like that. And I didn't mean to say that I don't think that the landscapes are fine art.
No, 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 no.
I definitely have my own preference of my own landscapes that I do
Mm-hmm.
feel like it. And it didn't, it's just, no, there's definitely some landscapes a lot of landscapes that I love, other people's landscapes, other, photographers that I really, really admire. And I definitely
Mm-hmm.
consider their work fine art.
Right, right. Because
Um,
Ansel Adams' landscapes are absolutely fine art photography.
or
There's
even so many of them that I follow on Facebook. I mean, there's so
Mhm.
many
Yes.
beautiful landscape photographers out there,
Yeah.
unbelievable work that people do out there. And,
Yeah.
I strive for that. A lot of it is location, so I'm always hoping to go on a big trip every year so I can photograph new areas and
Mhm.
new places.
Yeah.
Uh, but I love the way you said that fine art is what you do for yourself, because I think that has been a very big internal struggle that I have,
Mm.
creating a business or
Yeah.
doing it for yourself,
Yeah.
and that's something that I juggle a lot, and I've actually toned down my own personal business
Mhm.
because of that. Because I actually do
Yeah.
something else outside of photography. I have a different
Artistic.
career,
Yeah.
so I made a very, very conscious decision to limit the amount of portraits I do a year.
Same
So
here. Yeah.
that,
Yeah. I started as a headshot photographer.
Mhm.
And I still have some clients that come to me multiple times a year. In fact, this Saturday, I'm going to be doing several headshots for a corporate company.
Oh, that's
But at the same time, yeah, I consider myself a fine art photographer, and that's been the evolution. And I do have a business around fine art photography, but I create for myself first. And it's that switch that I think is so important. So there's a lot of good questions coming up. So first, I just want to address Missy's comment. She says, thank you for clarifying. That is what I was trying to ask, and I couldn't find the right word for it. I don't really like client photo shoots. I don't either sometimes. But I like creating my own shoots, but I didn't think it would take me anywhere until I found this group. Well, I'm very happy that you found us. And she says, thank you both for this live today as well. Desiree asks if you enter pieces in galleries that you have on Fine Art America.
Mhm.
Okay. And then Amy wants to know if you write off your
I'm
trips.
sorry. Wait,
What?
do I enter pieces that I haven't? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that there's anything in the terms of service that would not allow you to. And I know that this is a question that's come up in the group multiple times. If you get signed with an agency, you should still be able to enter into galleries or even create products that you're selling in your own shop. And if the contract says otherwise, you should definitely run.
Mhm.
So then, yeah, the other question from Amy was, do you write off your trips?
I haven't written off my trips. Actually, maybe next time I will. I write off a lot of other stuff, though. All my gear. I just bought a new computer this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't actually. You know why? Because I guess because the trips I've been going on to the last couple of years where I've been photographing have really been my family vacations, but I'm creating family vacations around locations I want to go to. So
It could get sticky. That would be a really good question to ask your accountant, Amy. Me personally, if I go on a trip specifically to shoot like a photographer's retreat or a workshop or something that could be considered educational, I will write it off. But then this year I went to Mexico for a photographer's retreat, but I also took my fiance and we also stayed extra days. So I could probably only write off my entry to the retreat specifically.
right.
And then the rest of that probably couldn't be written off. So for me, the intention is then to make sales from some of those images to help recoup the rest of the cost.
which is always good.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So the next question that I have is, do galleries play a big role in your sales? And you had sort of mentioned that galleries are a big part of your networking. Are
Mhm.
you selling directly when you're in galleries, or is it the networking connections that you're making at the galleries help make a sale on the back
I think
end?
it's in networking connections. I've sold at galleries, but
Mhm.
it's a very interesting thing because things I've sold, but I found that sometimes it's like I'll sell something to somebody who found me at a gallery, started following my work on Facebook,
Mhm.
and I don't even know. There are people on Facebook that that will be part of like my Facebook group regularly, and they'll talk to me on my Facebook page. But other people, I guess you don't know what people are looking at or how many people are really looking at, what you post every day. And I found that I've had sales, local ones,
Mm.
to people that I don't know who've contacted me, through Facebook to say, oh, I love this. You just posted this. I love this. I want to buy it from you. How should I go about doing that? And when I talk to them and say, how did you find me? They'll say, oh, I saw you at this gallery exhibit. I saw
Mm.
you there. I saw your work here. And
Mhm.
so sometimes you don't even realize that the sales you're making are coming from those places.
Hmm. And that's interesting too, because sometimes there's like a statute of limitations to some degree as to like how much would you give the gallery, right? Because if you
Right.
sell directly in a gallery, they're going to take a certain
Mhm.
percentage as commission.
Mhm.
If somebody takes 2 years to buy from you, then what responsibility do you have to the gallery to give them commission? And was it the piece that they originally saw, or did they start following you because of it and then buy something else? And if
It's
it's the
interesting.
latter, then you probably don't owe a commission because the gallery wasn't showing that image.
Right.
But it gets sticky like that
I
for
guess it
sure.
does. Yeah. Yeah. No
Hmm.
one's ever really, yeah, no, I never really thought about that. I think because when that happens, sometimes it's after they've seen it like it was 6 months prior and it wasn't even
Hmm.
the piece that was being
Yeah.
shown. So we didn't
Yeah.
even think about that,
Yeah.
whether I should go back to the gallery and say anything. And also in anything that I've ever signed from some of these galleries, I've never had to say like, okay, for the next 6 months,
Right.
you have to give this commission if anything comes out of this.
Usually, I think it's when the gallery has decided to represent you as a featured
Right.
artist and you
Right.
have a contract for a certain amount of time. So, like when I had my solo show, I was very specific about making sure that if somebody came from that, I was talking to the gallery about it. But I think when there's like a group show, it's usually only if it sells off of the wall at that
Right. Yeah.
point. But definitely something to think about,
Actually,
Um,
I think you say that. I was in a show last, was it like a year ago already in Manhattan, and it was a group show, but it was like almost like a mini solo show, which was very
mhm,
cool. It was a group. They chose 7 artists. It was a
mhm,
photography show in Manhattan, and I think it did say in the contract that if anything sells for the next of those pieces, so if I make a sale at their show or because I think everybody had like a mini gallery within the gallery with their name on the wall, and like everybody had like 7 to 10 pieces up. So I think I did have to sign something that said if a sale comes from what they saw there later, I have
mhm.
to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, when we're talking about looking at the contracts and things, it's really important for artists to understand what their contractual obligations are with a gallery or with an agency. And
What I wanted to say about that, I think this
mhm,
is something that this is a big learning piece. When you enter contests, not necessarily gallery shows, but like
mhm,
online contests, right? So even if they're local, really read the fine print and see what they are saying that they can use your images for after you've entered.
mhm,
Because, there are a lot of like online, very legit, like the International Photography Awards contest, they, in the fine print, you want to make sure you're not giving away your rights to anything.
mhm,
And you're not giving them the opportunity to use your images in anything but promoting this contest. Because
right.
I learned a local, there was a local contest on Facebook through the Long Island, where I live on Long Island. It was the travel guide. And this is a big travel guide. So if you're traveling around Long Island, this is going to be the guide that you're going to find, right? So they were having a contest. You submit the images, and they were giving away like every week, they were giving away like $150 Visa card or something like that. So I submitted a bunch. I won one of the weeks, which was very nice, and after that, I discovered that year for the travel guide that they published one of my photos.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know. They didn't tell me. They never contacted me about it, but they posted a big spread. And of course I would be excited. Like I did submit the picture. I would have been excited. I just want to know. I mean, if I'm giving you the images, I'm doing it also for my own purposes. So you have a purpose and I have a purpose. So if you're going to use me in your travel guide, I want to know about it so I can at least put it in my repertoire and, in my portfolio.
Sure.
So, but somebody saw it that I know, and they said, "Oh, congratulations on getting, that image in the travel guide." And I'm like, "What?" And then I went there and picked up a whole bunch of them, and I was talking to the president there, and they said, "Oh, we love that image so much. Not only do we love it so much, but we're going to use it in a national ad campaign. It's going to be in for tourism for Long Island. It's going to be in like National Geographic and Shutterbug magazine and all these things." And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. So basically I went back and looked. They can use any image that I submitted to them for any purpose. They used it. So they got my images for free. Now, if they would have come to me at that point, I probably would have given it to them for that whole trading value back then, but I didn't know they were using it. If I didn't show up, they would never have told me. And I would have never been able to put that in my portfolio that I was published in these giant magazines, using my image. And then I would sometimes find it popping up on social media, like if something popped up for Long Island, or I was on like eBay, and how like you get like pop-up advertisements that are followed through your interest. Mm-hmm. Long Island would come up, and then my picture would come up, and I'm like, whoa, that's my picture again. And they use that image over and over and over and over again. And I had a whole discussion with them about, please, if you use any of my images, please let me know in advance. And then I found out that they used a different image in another guide, without telling me. And so I've really learned my lesson to look at the fine print. And I think that's a huge lesson, because that image was used all over the place. And, and I did make a sale out of that. I mean, when I then posted it on Facebook, and I was excited, and I posted the travel guide, and I posted it and put it on my Fine Art America, I did make a couple of really big sales from that image, so it helped in that way, but I felt like I was very much taken advantage of, and so learn from my mistakes.
Missy wants to know if did they give you credit at all?
They gave me credit in the guides.
Okay.
But they don't give credit like online, like on those online ones. Matter of fact, I found it in like, I think it's like Travel Zoo. I guess the guide then advertises in Travel Zoo, so it makes it look like it's an article that pops up on your Facebook page, like the 10 best locations to go travel on Long Island. And it looks like it's an article, but it's really like a paid advertisement. So when I clicked on Montauk, there was my photo again, and there was no credit. And I'm like,
this is I think it's a really good point that you make, because you made this point recently in the group, and then I entered a contest shortly thereafter, and your comment like really stuck with me. So I read through thank you. I read through the terms, and I think that a legitimate contest would say, we are getting a license from you to use your image to promote future contests and third parties to promote future contests, but it should really only be within that limited scope. So for example, if you won the contest for rangefinders, best fine art portraits or something, then the next year they're going to want to use your images to help advertise the contest. And that totally makes sense. But this one is definitely above and beyond. You essentially, it sounds like, gave them a perpetual worldwide forever license.
I did,
which you weren't compensated for correctly. And that was really scummy of them, unfortunately.
And I didn't understand. And I had a face-to-face conversation with them about it, and emails about it. And they were so like, oh, absolutely, don't worry, you'll get credit, blah, blah, blah. And then, it was a little like disheartening, that I didn't care.
Definitely buyer beware in terms of contests and even galleries too. Like a gallery, if you're going to enter a show, they would be able to use your image to help promote the show and future shows, obviously, but it just, make sure that they're not asking for anything above and beyond that, really, unless like you're totally comfortable with it.
Right.
So Cynthia wants to know, when somebody buys through you and not Fine Art America, where do you print? And are you consistent with that, or does it depend?
No, it depends. I do a lot of my, I like CG Pro for canvases. So that's where I get most of my canvases from. So if somebody like on Facebook contacts me, I don't push them to Fine Art America, because I actually make a much larger profit margin not going through Fine Art America if I produce myself. So, there's like pros and cons of going through Fine Art America, but when I produce myself, I make a much higher profit margin. CG Pro is a good one. Like I said, I use Nation Photo. I've used Bayes Photo. I'm trying to think what else I've used for. Those are pretty much the ones that I've used for fine art print, for the printing on my own.
And we have a list in the group in our docs section of various printers and also places that you can print on products. So if anybody wants to review that, I'll drop it in the comments later. But if you're not catching all of the links that we're dropping, that is a good resource for you to check into anytime that you want to print. So when somebody comes to you, how are you handling that sale? Like, can you walk me through that? Are they sending you a check? Are they going through PayPal? Like how do you actually like process the sale if they're not being pushed to Fine Art America?
If it's a local person and I don't push them through Fine Art America, then it's usually like cash or a check. If it's somebody like that doesn't want that, wants to charge it, then I can do like a PayPal, that's easy enough. So that's fine. Yeah. But then I have to handle the whole sale. So, that's the con of of not going to something like Fine Art America. I make a lot more money off of the sale because the profit margin is much, much higher, but I have to go from nuts to bolts. I have to, have it printed, make sure that it looks good, have to worry if there's any kind of problems, if they want to do a return, how does that work? Where when you sell through Fine Art America, you literally just get a check from them. You get like an email that says, congratulations, you've sold, and then there's a page that you can then post on your social media saying, congratulations, about the sale. And then you don't have to worry if things get returned. I mean, I would assume if something got returned, then they would probably take the money back. I don't know. It's never really happened. But, they go from nuts to bolts. So if there's a problem, it's all done through Fine Art America, including the printing, including the framing, including the canvas or whatever process they want. So.
Yes. So it sounds like to use Fine Art America basically means that you cannot do limited editions because they would have to ship to you unframed, and then you'd have to sign. Then are you able to control the paper that they use at all on Fine Art America?
They can. I mean, I printed through there also for myself, and they do have a variety of fine art papers that you can use. So sometimes I actually print, sometimes a few of my own pieces that I've done for myself personally, I've done through them. A, I wanted to see the quality. And B, also because they're like a custom framing center there. So you can choose your matting, your paper, your frames. So it's just actually easier for me to just do it through them and have it done, but I can't sign it. So if somebody wants to buy something through me directly, I usually don't push them through Fine Art America because I want to sign it, I want to sign it and I want to have like, I want to see it. But if people that I don't know, that's, basically the sale. So sometimes on my Facebook page, I'll post something and the next thing you know, I got a sale through Fine Art America, and I know it probably came from the Facebook page, but it's not somebody that I know personally,
Got it. Yeah, so that's sort of tough for like an artist that really wants that automated side of things, but at the same time, like wants it to be that higher end experience too.
Well, that's why I think I'm now going to start doing these limited editions and printing myself, or finding a printer that can print on the high end paper and starting to do that. And that'll just be like the next step in my, fine art business. So I'll still have Fine Art America because I do make a bunch of sales throughout the year to people from other states. I don't know them. It's just I don't know if it's coming out of my Facebook page or if it's just coming out of a search from Fine Art America. I have no idea. I just know that somebody in Missouri just purchased it, or somebody in, wherever. So, so I'm going to keep that. I think it's been a good vehicle and it's been there long enough, but I definitely want to start promoting the limited editions.
Yeah, definitely. I want to give a plug here too, really quickly to Finer Works. I think that they're in San Antonio, Texas. I'm going to drop a link here because what they'll do is they will let you print on a number of different papers. They can frame matte everything for you, and they also have certificates of authenticity as a product too. I have not done this yet, but for some people who maybe want to just do the fully automated, they might be able to put the certificate of authenticity in there as well.
Oh, that's good. But
Yeah,
they don't ship it back to you to sign, and then you ship it back to
so
them.
you can do that too. So
Okay.
they will actually put your branding on everything as well, and so they could ship it to you, and then you could ship it to the customer. The only issue would be, again, if they are doing the full framing for
Right.
you, then you don't have the ability to sign it. But
Yeah.
what I've done in the past is I've done both. So I've had them frame something for me that wasn't going to get signed and had them drop ship it. But sometimes what I'll do is I will get the print from them, and they do a range of papers. They do beautiful work, and they have really good customer service. But then I'll bring it to a local matter and framer who thinks that my work's really weird. So that's a little uncomfortable, but then at least I can like sign it, and then she can frame it
Right.
and stuff like that. So for anybody that's interested, Amy says try musilab.com for your limited edition. Let me see if I can put that in here too. Thank you, Amy. I hope I pronounced that right. I could type that. So musilab.com.
I don't remember the name of the company. That there's a company that will, like, they'll print it for you, they send it to you, you sign it, you send it back, and then they frame it. But I don't know.
That's interesting.
I saw it somewhere once, and I don't remember anymore. Maybe
I wonder if, Amy, that's the same one that we're talking about. We'll definitely touch base on this after the broadcast. Cynthia wants to know, what is your favorite type of paper?
I guess it depends upon the type of photograph. So like, really like that watercolor paper with a texture for some of my work, for the especially the texturized stuff. Like the Painted Ladies look really, really good on watercolor textured paper. But then I like glossy for like certain landscapes, and then I actually like metal for some of them. Some of the landscapes come out just really nice in metal. Like really.
There's a coffee shop near me that has landscapes done on metal, and they light them from above and they just glow. They're so beautiful. I have some metal prints in my guest room upstairs where I've been filming those weekly theme challenges. And the one thing that I find about the metals is that they're a little bit softer in terms of the final print than if you were printing on paper. So that's just like one thing that's sort of bugged me a little bit. I know before the broadcast, you and I were talking about like wanting to get things tack sharp and then also being able to let go of things. So I've tried to understand that not every single medium produces the same effect. And so I probably won't sell metal for that reason for me.
I use metal for the water. I do these water drops. They're like, like macro water drops where they put like objects behind it and it gets refracted inside. And that was the show that I had in Manhattan. That was kind of like a private, like a solo show. And I did those all on metal because I feel like they're kind of like modern art. So, I wanted like a more modern feel to it. And so I had huge metal images printed up that I have in my garage for the next show. But they came out great on metal because it was the right kind of like feel for the kind of image that they were.
Yeah. For anybody that is just starting to explore paper, I think White House Custom Color and a lot of other labs, again, we've got them listed in a doc in the group. They'll send you a packet of sample papers that you can see, and they'll show you like how a print looks different on them. They won't print out your own stuff, but at least it gives you a feel for things. For me, I like to I like to print on a Somerset velvet paper. So that is a little less textured than the watercolor paper, but it's probably as close as you could get. And so again, it does have like, because my work is a little soft and painterly sometimes too, and it does give it like that nice kind of like added texture that I really like. I've also printed on like an Epson semi-gloss and then like more of a matte paper. And I don't love straight up photo papers. To me, The shine especially really takes away from my particular work. So this is really all about testing, seeing what you feel like works the best for you. And
Right.
so for those of you that have like that more conceptual painterly kind of work, the more textured papers might be really nice for you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And I like, yeah, definitely agree. Like definitely depends upon the work for sure.
Mhm.
You know, if you go to um like an expo, a lot of times,
Yeah.
and then try out the papers and see all their papers because the companies will be there, you know,
Yeah.
with samples and whatnot. The last time I went to the New York City one last year.
I was there. I didn't know you then.
So yeah, I'm an ambassador for for one of the companies, for a company that sells, it's called Suray,
Mhm.
and it's a company that sells tripods and filters and things like that. So
Cool.
I got the experience of being in the booth last year for a little while, and you know, and they put a big picture of mine up as one of their ambassadors. It was very exciting. So it
So
was,
this is sort of like a tangential topic then, but like how did they approach you about that ambassadorship? And then as an artist, like what's the benefit to you about being the ambassador for them?
um, well, it's tangential, but it's kind of not from what we're talking about because that
Mm.
happened because of networking and Facebook. So
Ah,
I met the marketing executive of that company the year prior on a cruise. Just we were, you know, my husband was talking to him, and we were chatting with him and his wife, and he at the time was a marketing director at Manfrotto,
okay.
and um, and also a photographer, does you know, his own photography. And then we became Facebook friends. And, you know, so here and there we would just chit chat or whatever. And then a year later, he contacted me through Facebook saying he's been following my work for the last year, you know, and he's not a big Facebooker. So it's like, you know, here and there I would see like a photo of him or his family and whatnot. But I didn't really know. We didn't have a lot of interaction. And he said, and I just got a new position as the head marketing director for a company called Suray. And I really love their products, really hot, you know, really, really good products. And I would want to, I'm building the marketing up for it. And I wanted to talk to you about becoming an ambassador. And so, you know, that's a huge honor. That was amazing, but that would not have happened without social media, you know?
Hmm.
So, and that's where, and so the benefits are, we have he's very, very good to us. So
Hmm.
we have a nice mutual, um, when they first started, like 2 years ago, they sent me a lot of photo gear, like filters and a filter system based on basically the kind of photography I do. So the other ambassadors might do more birds and things like
Hmm.
that. And so he sent me tripods and bags and filters. And the filters are so key because, you know, I do a lot of landscape photography and I use filters, and the good filters are expensive, you know, $150, $200 per filter.
Hmm.
So, and I have to say, these filters are excellent. And so to me, that was like, you know, that was payments. You know, I got a few $1,000s worth of gear, and I'm not under like a contract. I don't have to promote them. I
Wow.
don't have to say anything good about them. I only say what I truly feel.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, so it's like a mutual, I post and I'll put their hashtags on, and I talk about the gear that I use because I
Hmm.
really use it. And in return, I get gear. And I also have, you know, he used one of my images in a promotion in like Shutterbug magazine and National Geographic, some things like that. So, but not without my consent, you know. So not only did I get photo credit for it, but at the bottom he put a picture of me as a Suray professional and my links, you know,
Hmm.
at the bottom of this big ad for their tripod that used my photos. So, you know,
Yeah.
they have a really good mutual respect
Yeah.
for the photographers that are their ambassadors. So I think it's been an all around amazing experience
Hmm.
outside of just being a huge honor, you know, to
Yeah.
ask for something. So,
So I want to wrap because you've given us more than an hour of your time right now, and I really appreciate it. And I want to kind of wrap then with an observation and then a question. It really seems to me like um, networking has been like such a huge part of your career, but it sounds like the sales piece has really been centered around social media with Facebook
mhm.
as that kind of central linchpin. And I feel like a lot of artists and business owners have complained about Facebook, especially in the past few years where organic reach has really dropped. Whereas years past, they could be able to reach their whole audience with a single post. So what are some of the tactics and strategies that you're using to be able to keep Facebook as a relevant source for you to connect with your audience?
That's a good question, because sometimes I post something on Facebook and it's like, there's 5,000 people on my Facebook page, and you can see like the statistics at the bottom on how many, what the reach is, and it goes out to like 200 people or 50 people. Like, how is that fair? So, I learned, and I'm not that great at marketing. That's not really my background. So I try to post. Sometimes I think about like time of day. I know that makes a difference. Sometimes I try to post and get engagement in my posts, because I know that if people are engaged in my posts, then they go further. So if I get a lot of likes or people start commenting, then they go further than if I get no comments, then they die. So I try to engage by saying, what do you think? Or, hey guys, I try to give some background also on the photographs. There's a lot of people that follow, that are, they get excited because they've been there, or they used to live here, or, there's a personal engagement that goes on. So then they'll comment about it because, they remember being there, or that's their favorite spot and whatnot. So I try to engage people as best as I can. I mean, there are times when I just post, I'm out somewhere and I'm excited about a picture and I just post. But when I really think about it, I know that I should be asking engaging questions to get people to make comments and share. So that's been something.
Yeah. So can you leave us then with like one tip of what you feel like has really worked for you, social media wise, or just general in your career, that, if that was the one takeaway that somebody got from your chat today, this would be it for you?
Oh, I don't know. Just social media wise, or just anything?
Or in general, yeah.
I think take a risk. I think take the risk, because like that imposter syndrome that you were just talking about. I was just talking about that with my friend the other day. And you know what? I think everybody goes through that in whatever career they're in, and whatever, life stage you're in. And the more you do something, the more you start to feel more accomplished in it. But I think then everything is a risk. You're creating art, and you're creating it from yourself. And it's a risk. And sometimes you put it out there and you get no response. And sometimes you put it out there and people love it. But and you're going to feel the ups and downs. You're going to feel them when you think you made something beautiful and people are like, don't see it, and then you make something and you're not quite sure. And then they love, so there's going to be that up and down feeling. It's going to be that feeling of like, sometimes you put it out there and you're going to feel great about it. I think that when you go through those moments of getting rejected, gallery exhibit, if it's a book cover company that that's what I'm striving for, is to get, my images, thanks to you and your amazing group, which by the way, this group is I was telling her this before when we were chatting, the group has been so inspirational to me. I'm like shooting in ways that I was not shooting before I started this group, thinking about different, so in all aspects, shooting for book covers potentially, but also shooting in my landscapes. I'm shooting differently. So, I think take the risk and then ride out the lows, like ride out the ones that when you get rejected, even if it's a solid 6 months of rejection, ride it out, whatever you have to do in your head to keep perspective that this is part of the roller coaster. It's part of the cycle.
Brilliant. That is so good. Thank you. It even goes back to like, should you post this on Facebook? The last thing that you posted didn't get a response. We'll take the risk. I think that's a really brilliant and beautiful thing for us to keep in mind. So also a fantastic way for us to close. Thank you so much for spending this time and sharing your expertise. If anybody has questions that we didn't answer, or if you have questions after the broadcast, please feel free to leave comments. We will do our best to share those links or answer any questions that are outstanding. Alissa, thank you so much for your time. This has been so informative and very encouraging for me, and I'm sure for everybody else watching.
I was really honored. I really was very honored that you asked me. So thank you so much for this.
You're so welcome. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will check back with you in the comments later. Bye.
Bye.